The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult.
The video doesn't play all the way through. All right, well, good morning, everybody. That's right. It is Monday, January 20th. It is Inauguration Day, you guys, and we're going to be playing this inauguration in the background for you guys to watch, so that way you guys don't miss a beat along. And today is also National Cheese Lovers Day, you guys. Any thoughts on that? No, you guys are pretty quiet today. Okay, all right. You're a fan of cheese? All right, okay. All right, I love some cheese too. You know what I mean? Little charcuterie boards. You know what I'm saying? Especially if it's a Trump one. It's also what's that? Say that again. Money cheese. I'm not mad at that either. You know what I'm saying? It's also National Disc Jockey Day. Yeah, and National Butter Crunch Day. Shout out to Butter Crunch, right? Not mad at that. I mean, I don't choose these days, Jenny Beth. It's not, you know what I'm saying? It's not my call. Yeah. Yeah, this is official like a referee's whistle, Jenny Beth.
Wow. Get him a whistle.
That's right. You know what I'm saying?
Get him a whistle.
It is also, Rico is out today because it is Jasmine's birthday, so we do want to wish Jasmine a very, very, very happy birthday today, you guys.
Aw.
Yeah. Yes, and thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. That's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, and on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. So thank you to all of you joining us from any one of those platforms, you guys. And today we are going to kick it off with, that's right, with none other than America's sweetheart, Miss Jenny Beth Dills. She's the founder of Kind Cannabis and of Justice Served, a 501c3 that helps justice-impaired individuals get their lives back on track. I know she loves when I say that, and that's right, it is none other than the America's sweetheart, Miss Jenny Beth Dills.
Justice impacted.
We'll get there. We're working on it.
Impacted. Toronto is signaling it will no longer crack down on illegal cannabis shops. Citing budget limitations and safety concerns for bylaw officers, Carlton Grant, the city's executive director of municipal licensing and standards, says its provincial funding for enforcement ran out at the end of 2024, leaving the city unable to continue its efforts. It sounds like New York. For years, bylaws enforcement officers to tackle illegal dispensaries using tools such as closure orders, padlock to protect, property seizures, New York, and even physical barriers like concrete blocks. But Grant says the work has proven ineffective, dangerous, and beyond the scope of municipal authority. Bylaw officers lack arrest powers and are not trained to use force, creating significant challenges and risks. So the city of Toronto is not mad, they're just disappointed. Since 2019, the city has taken nearly 100 enforcement actions against illegal operators and property owners, laying over 200 charges and securing more than 100 convictions. But without funding, the city is stepping back, and Grant argues the responsibility now lies with the police.
At the end of last year,
the Ontario government, which regulates cannabis through the Alcohol Gaming Commission of Ontario, says it will continue enforcement efforts and allocated $31 million over 3 years for cannabis enforcement at the provincial level. However, it has not specified who will handle illegal dispensaries in Toronto. Toronto police say they were not informed of the city's decision to stop enforcement, so they didn't know it was their job. Their focus remains on broader issues like opioid trafficking and gun violence and serious crimes, as it should be, but they are open to collaborating with the city. Legal cannabis shop owners in Toronto, like Al Shefsky of Body and Spirit Cannabis, are frustrated. Shefsky says the lack of enforcement gives illegal operators an unfair advantage and poses risks to public safety, as these unlicensed shops often sell products without quality control. Paul McGovern, president of Verde Cannabis, Inc., and a former Toronto police officer, echoed these concerns, saying illegal dispensaries undermine the legal market, he believes police should step in to restore fairness. So, yeah, public safety, aka they are having their profits cut into because probably their weed sucks. But I mean, I guess Toronto said we're not doing this anymore, and the police said it's also not our job. So it's a great day to be trappy in Toronto.
Look at that, man! That is traptastic, Jenny.
Mm-hmm.
That is extra traptastic. What do you think? I mean, they definitely have a lot of mids up there in Canada, and you know, Toronto being a hotbed for as far as a mid zone. You know what I mean? What do you think about this, Mr. Midzotics?
I can concur that Canada is inundated with mids. I was recently up on the Canadian border on the at the Akwesasne Indian tribe that borders Canada, and they were telling me about the thousands and thousands of pounds, $300 to $500 coming over the border, which is why they did not want my mids from California.
Interesting.
Did you just never mind?
And they did not want your mids from California. Interesting.
No, they were like, "Oh, we got plenty of Canadian beasters, eh?" I was like, "Oh, great, great. Same prices here than back in California. The fuck did I traffic all this weed over here?"
Yeah, fair enough.
Right.
I mean,
yeah, right.
It helps the fact that you're a NASCAR driver. You know what I mean? Go fast and make moves, right?
Third place. That's all I want every time.
That's
I don't want first or second. Third. Mids only.
The mids only. Yeah. You want the 5th place trophy, right?
Third. I just got to be on the podium. I don't need first or second. You know, keep it mids. Keep it low key. You know, thousand air level stuff.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about getting the points anyway. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? You know, if you're coming in second and third in every race, you know what I'm saying? Like you're going to be qualifying at the end of the day for the cup.
If you can be just reliably third every time, the fans fucking love that. You know what I mean? Like it's first and last. You're in jail. You're on the podium. Just Midzotics is going to be fucking third place, solid choice every time.
Oh man.
Just good enough.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all right.
Oh, this is so good.
A lot of similarities to New York. A lot of similarities to things that also don't work in New York from an enforcement standpoint. A lot of operators crying once again. Yeah, Jason, maybe.
Do they have a
Toronto
Canadian?
is also the gift that keeps on giving, because what they've done that New York didn't is they have concrete blocks. The fuck?
I mean,
you just come and there's a bunch of concrete blocks in your way.
Sounds like Washington D.C. right now.
Chill, Jason. I'm sure we'll get to plenty of inauguration.
Just saying.
I was on a panel, and I don't know who put this panel together. Yes, I do. It was a dude from Canada, and that's why this made sense. He put me on a branding panel with people from Canada, and I'm like, you guys don't fucking have branding, so please talk to me again about your phenomenal how to set up branding and marketing and strategy, because Canada is like a very sterile type market to me.
That's fair, yeah, especially with their packaging.
Not a lot of fun.
The packaging is all mids.
From our 51st state.
That's future 51st state. I can't wait for that to be. Yarrow, what do you think about this? Toronto, they're saying they're not going to enforce on illegal cannabis shops anymore.
Good morning, pumpkin butt.
I mean, it's a resource smart play, right? Because I don't think it pays for itself. If they can't do asset forfeiture, if they can't destroy families and communities, then does it really pay for itself to enforce against the illegal bodegas or maple syrup egas, however we call it, north of the border? And, you know, speaking of resource efficient plays, you know, Matt Shotwell's entire model of coming in third is a resource smart play, right? Because if you're driving around a racetrack, it's always that lead race car that burns the most fuel to be in first position. And it's the car that drafts in behind them that actually uses less fuel to be able to be in second or third position.
The drift.
So not only is Matt Shotwell content with third place, but he's actually doing the world a service by using less resources to come in third place and to drift in or draft behind first and second place. And so I think, again, back to this resource thing, there's just no money in them enforcing against it up there. And so, and the Canadian regulated market probably has less influence in 2025 than it did in 2018. And so money talks, and I don't think that industry up there is particularly influential relative to its previous years.
I'm just picturing all these operators complaining. You know how in the South Park episodes show the Canadian people, it's like their whole head.
Yeah, Terrence and Phillip. Terrence and Phillip.
I'm not your buddy, pal.
Yeah.
I'm not your pal, buddy.
Oh man, shout out to South Park.
That's how I'd like to imagine that happening.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. I'm not mad at that. I am not mad at that at all. Jesse, you have any thoughts on this, Canada? I mean, they got so many problems in Canada. I mean, I just saw a video of BC and their whole fentanyl block that is just looks just so sad to be in.
Unfortunately, I have not been to the Canada market in recent years since all these legal things happened, so I'm not super familiar with the actual quality on the street. But I remember the beasters that used to come over the border from into Montana back in the 90s, and that was the best weed we could get back then.
Oh man, that's so sad that you would say that. So sad. Oh man.
I mean, on the regular. I mean, of course, we would get exceptional bags that would come through, but like on the daily, the best weed you typically get in Montana was beasters.
The best weed. I mean, I guess you know what I mean. At least I will say this: Canadian weed is at least better than Bammer weed and that Mexican brickweed.
Amen.
But I like the fact that they're polite. Not.
It's more polite, right? I mean, that's what the Canadians have a monopoly on, if not AAA quality, is politeness. And
I don't know about that. I think the UK has the monopoly on politeness.
Yeah,
really?
They're all just
as a global brand, I think Canadians win.
Yeah,
on that one.
I don't know.
So that's the place where we could take a cue from them. Maybe not in terms of the quality of flower department, but the quality of interaction department. They seem to be extra polite. I mean, they can tell you to take a hike and do it in such a polite way that you're like ready to lace up your shoes.
Maybe that's what leads to mids. It's the politeness. They're just too nice, so it just leads to mids. You can't get anything really high quality.
I agree. Canada's first in the niceness. UK's coming in a solid second, and then Aussies will be right there at third. And Americans, I don't know where the fuck we're at on the scale there, to be honest. But they went on teeth over UK. I would trust someone with nicer teeth with selling me my mids than someone with fucked up teeth. Personally, that's just me.
I mean, so you're not gonna go and buy any mids from like a stripper in Atlantic City. That's what you're saying.
Well, I didn't. I lit myself up there. Look at that.
Look at that.
The sun shineth in Trap City, Vallejo, California.
Oh man, we love Vallejo. That is for sure in the 707. That's without a doubt. You know,
its luster has worn off on me. I've been here for half of my life now, and I'm ready to move back to DC. Actually.
Well, speaking of DC, we got DC over to the left of us. You know that. You know, I used to grind out there in Vallejo. They used to call me and my buddy the White Boys on Grant back in the day. But enough of that. We're going to roll into our first commercial, and we're going to be right back.
That's what the social equity community is calling me these days.
Oh boy. And we are back, you guys. All that lagging you guys often talk about, whatnot. We are 100% back. But
coming up next, you guys know who it is. It's the happiest day in the world. This is Jason Beck's fucking Christmas, you guys. So he's in the best mood of the year. But up next is the High at 9 head honcho, welcoming back 47. And I'm sure this is not a politically charged story at all, but here comes Jason Beck.
It is not a politically charged story at all, Jenny Beth. You are correct about that. It is definitely not a politically charged story. But you know what? You know, here at High at 9, we are all about the will of the people. And we have a story in regards, and just full transparency, it's a little long, okay? And it is about a municipality that is trying to go against the will of the people. Seems like they're taking a page out of Christy Noem's playbook, Jenny Beth. And it's right in your old backyard because Colorado Springs, you guys, finally approved adult use marijuana. Yep, that's right. But could the new market be snuffed out before it starts, you guys? That's right. Months after voters weighed in, officials aim to ask on the ballot if it's what they truly intended, you guys. As if the voters are confused, you guys. Voters here chose to legalize adult use marijuana sales for the first time in the city's history last fall, casting 22,372 more votes in favor than against question 300 on the November 5th ballot. But for some members of the Colorado Springs City Council, the more than 9 percentage point electoral margin backing the establishment of a retail cannabis industry in Colorado's second largest city wasn't definitive enough. Elected leaders in the politically conservative community are gearing up to place a new measure on the April 1st, how ironic is it, April Fool's, municipal ballot that would overturn the November vote, you guys. In a quote, they say, "We're just going to give the citizens one chance to make sure this was their intent," Councilman Dave Donaldson told the Denver Post in an interview, you guys. Referral of a adult use marijuana prohibition measure to the spring ballot is expected to pass the council's next meeting on January 28th, and Donaldson points to last fall's question 300, which included language about license limitations and setbacks from schools and daycare operations as overly dense and confusing. That there was a competing measure on the same ballot, all out banning adult use marijuana sales and put there by the city council. And they muddled more, he said, and they muddled more. In a quote, they say, "Regular people are busy. They have kids crying. They have jobs. They don't need this. They don't need this like lawyers," the first-term councilman said. But while he says the goal is simply verifying that this is what the voters truly intended, I don't know why they couldn't do that by the vote count, but whatever. He said, they say, those behind November's ballot question say the people have already spoken loudly and clearly. They approved question 300 and rejected question 2D, the marijuana prohibition measure. Question 300 supporters accused the anti-marijuana majority on the council of using badly underhanded tactics to thwart the will of the voters in this city of nearly 500,000 people. In a quote, they say, older and more conservative voters tend to vote more in off-cycle elections, said Carly Van Arum, the general manager of the medical cannabis dispensary Pure, of the potential new ballot measure. And in a quote, she says, "It's the crowd they want, the will of the few to override the will of the many," she says. Pure is one of nearly 90 medical marijuana dispensaries in Colorado Springs. Medical sales have been legal in the city for more than a decade, and while the adult use side of the industry has failed to take hold in the 11 years since the first retail weed shop opened up in Colorado, just 2 years ago, Colorado Springs voters rejected a measure to legalize adult use sales, though they passed a separate measure to tax those sales at 5% should they become legal. Then last fall, nearly 55% of Colorado Springs voters said yes to adult use sales. At a meeting last week that packed City Hall with dozens of agitated residents, Councilwoman Yolanda Avila, a voice of dissent on the 9-member body, accused her colleagues of trying to engineer a favorable electoral outcome this spring. In a quote, she says, "We are going to have the least voter turnout on April 1st because we don't even have a mayor running," Avila said. In an additional quote, she says, "It's the lowest turnout." Kent Jarning, a Vietnam War combat vet who helped fund the El Paso County, Colorado Progressive Veterans, told the council it should be easier for veterans to access marijuana to help them treat post-traumatic stress disorder and other traumas incurred from their service. In a quote, they say, "I just get the feeling the city council is going to keep putting this on the ballot until it is voted down," he said at Tuesday's meeting. eliciting a loud pause from the audience, you guys. And there's longtime anti-cannabis ethos, you guys, because Colorado Springs, by not allowing adult use cannabis sales, is an outlier amongst Colorado's 5 biggest cities. For 8 years ending in 2023, the city was led by Mayor John Suthers, who previously served as Colorado's Attorney General and U.S. Attorney. He was known as an ardent opponent to cannabis legalization, you guys. And while Colorado Springs has a wealth of medical marijuana dispensaries, there are enough hurdles in place, and with the need to get a doctor's note and purchase a green card from the state, that Tom Scudder says that side of the industry simply can't compete with the adult use side. In a retail storefront, the only requirement is that the customer has to be 21 years or older under her belt, he says. And in a quote, "We've been going out of business for 3 years," said Scudder, who owns a pair of medical stores and a grow operation in the city. He serves as president of the Colorado Springs Cannabis Association, and while the entire industry in Colorado has taken a hit following the COVID-19 pandemic, cannabis surge that sent sales to a record $2.2 billion statewide in 2021. The medical market has been on an even stemper decline in recent years. Scudder said that what is now a $72 million annual business in the city could blossom to $130 million in the first year of adult use cannabis sales, and $171 million a year by 2030, they say. The city could see anywhere from $7 million to $10 million in annual sales tax revenue by that later date, he said. And in a quote, "They literally could solve homelessness overnight if they allowed these sales to go through and used it for that," Scudder said. It's just insane we're not doing that. They are fanatics in this respect," he says. The tax on adult use marijuana sales that voters passed in 2022 would allocate the money to 3 buckets: support for military veterans, enhanced public safety, and funding for mental health. But that's only if voters in April don't overturn what voters in November decided, you guys. The whole situation has Aaron Blues beyond frustrated. The 38-year-old entrepreneur who has been in the cannabis industry for more than a decade has 3 medical shops in Colorado Springs, and he also has a dual licensed storefront in Dillon in Summit County, which he says often pulls in as much business in one day as all 3 of his Altitude organic medicine shops do. A big part of the problem, Blue said, is that Colorado Springs' dozens of medical pot shops are largely chasing after just over 22,000 medical marijuana card holders in El Paso County. That literally prompted him and other marijuana advocates to spearhead a signature gathering effort last spring to get question 300 on the November ballot. They structured the measure to assure voters that the industry wouldn't be able to operate in too freewheeling of a manner, Blue said. And it stated that only existing medical shops could apply for adult use licenses, creating a de facto cap on the number of retail stores allowed in Colorado Springs. It also stipulated that any dispensary selling adult use cannabis would have to be at least 1,000 feet from schools or daycare centers. And right away, Blue said the city council began to fight the measure. In September, it passed a preemptive ordinance to increase the 1,000-foot setback to a mile and effectively precluding just about any location in the city from qualifying for a retail license. Then the council placed question 2D, the recreational marijuana prohibition measure, an amendment to the city charter that could have trumped 300 on the same ballot. Just this month, Colorado Springs elected leaders advanced a new ordinance to again increase setbacks to a mile. And while that ordinance was voted down last week, the new ballot measure wiping out the old one potentially looms in April. Councilwoman Nancy Henjum has been outspoken on the aggressive tactics her council and colleagues have taken to throw a monkey wrench into the situation the voters approved. In a quote, they say, "I find it a blatant disregard of the will of the voters and am gobsmacked that in the city that is known to be the birthplace of libertarianism, that this city council would conclude that it knows what is better for people than the will of its own constituents and voters by majority," she said. In an additional quote, they say, every day is like clockwork, you guys. And if the aim of the city leaders is to reduce residents' overall access to marijuana, Blues says it's not working. 11 minutes from City Hall, you can get adult use cannabis in Montague Springs, he said, and or thank you, Jenny, Manitou, or in Pueblo, 30 minutes down the road, or in Palmer Lake, 23 minutes to the north. Blues has to turn away at least 10 people a day who seek adult use cannabis at his medical stores, and in a quote says, it's every day like clockwork, he said. Often he sends them to Dead Flowers in Palmer Lake, an eclectic retail pot shop decorated in electrocative murals of classic rockers like Jim Morrison, Slash, Freddie Mercury, and owner Dino Salvatore's favorite, the Rolling Stones. In a quote, they say, I've been in medical for a long time, and there is no money in it, said Salvatore, who has run a medical marijuana shop in Palmer Lake for more than a decade. He now owns a dual license shop after voters in the northern El Paso County town legalized adult use sales back in 2022, and Salvatore, 64, went from greeting 12 to 15 people a day in the year leading up to Palmer Lake's marijuana election at around 350 people daily now, even up to 450 people on Fridays, he says. In a quote, he says, had that not passed, I would have gotten out, he said. Now business is going gangbusters with referrals from Colorado Springs, but nearly half his clientele comes from the opposite direction in Douglas County, which permits no cannabis sales of any kind. He recognizes that as long as there are no adult use cannabis sales in Colorado Springs, it will be good for his pocketbook. But Salvatore also feels badly for the voters to his south, who he feels are being disenfranchised by their own elected leaders. In a quote, they say, the people voted for it, and last time I checked, that's what elections are all about, he said. I'm leaning more towards letting them have it, he says. Worries about the youth use, though, however, is there's arguments against adult use cannabis in Colorado Springs have run the gamut from concern over youth use to worries about whether, as a military town, the city could see its role as a host of the U.S. Space Command jeopardized by the commercialization of the drug that is still illegal at the federal level. At last week's council meeting, Councilman David Leinweber made it clear that he is a supporter of medical marijuana, even calling the industry awesome. But he said he had deep concerns about the drug getting into the hands of young people, which he feels is more likely if the industry expands in the city. In a quote, they say, research has increasingly linked early and frequent marijuana use to elevated risk of psychosis, anxiety, and mental health challenges, particularly in youth whose brains are still developing, Leinweber said. A 2024 study published by the National Institutes of Health stated, in quotes, there are concerns that the use of products with increased potency will increase risk for cannabis use and comorbid mental health disorders, particularly cannabis-induced psychosis and suicidal behavior, they say, you guys, end quote. It concluded that because young brains develop over a long time, youth are particularly vulnerable to the adverse effects of cannabis. And in a quote, they say, we have to find a balance between the benefits and the negative aspects of this, Leinweber said. The Post attempts to reach several other council members who look dimly on cannabis use were unsuccessful, and Van Arman with Pure said youth use of marijuana is actually on the decline. In a quote, they say, we have seen youth use drop in regulated markets, she said, and according to the most recent Healthy Kids Colorado survey, the share of high school students in Colorado report using marijuana at least once in the previous month dropped to 12.8% in 2023 from 13.3% 2 years earlier. Both of those figures were well below the more than 20% who answered the question affirmatively back in 2019. And compliance with state rules on youth restrictions has been strong in the industry, and Van Arman said state data shows that undercover Underage operatives who attempted to purchase marijuana in Colorado were denied 99% of the time in each of the last 3 years, you guys. Well, that's great news. If Colorado Springs Council votes to put its prohibition measure on the April ballot at the end of this month, industry advocate Scudder said there's no saying what might happen. The city is scheduled to begin accepting applications for adult use licenses in February, with the first licenses expected to be issued in April. And Scudder said voters in Colorado Springs have rejected adult use marijuana before, with the much smaller and more conservative pool of voters likely to turn out for a spring municipal election. The anti-cannabis forces would hold the advantage, he thinks. And he and his allies will have to make as much noise as they can and appeal the voters' sense of fairness, Scudder said, and in a quote says, "It's going to be a hell of a challenge," he said, "and I don't know if we're going to be able to do it," he says. Well. Colorado Springs not trying to uphold the will of the voters. Sounds like a story that we've covered in from other municipalities throughout the time here at High at 9 News, and I can't wait to hear what y'all have to say about this. What do you got, Jenny?
It seemed like you could wait because God freaking Lord, that was a long ass story. You read the whole thing, including gobsmacked and the descriptions of the pictures on the wall.
I couldn't really resist reading gobsmacked.
Chat GPT could have, but anyhow, all right. So I have a lot to say about this because we've been trying to pass this for fucking forever. In 2016 and 2017, I operated a medical shop and cultivation in Colorado Springs, and we were trying to get this passed with the same group of fucking people at that point in time. At the end of the day, Colorado Springs just doesn't want it. Fucking Maggie's Farm and Emerald fucking whatever are going to do numbers because they're right there in Manitou Springs. And for those of you that don't know where Manitou Springs is, it's fucking Colorado Springs. Like, it's literally, you pull off into a road and this road is Manitou Springs.
Is it a dirt road?
No,
or is it paved? Okay.
Come on, Jason. Just
saying.
It should be paved in gold with all the fucking money and taxes that Emerald Farms is or Maggie's Farm is racking in. Those trucks are huge.
Okay.
But like, here's the deal. They're going to try to not push it through. Here's the part that is most bullshit to me. This was our final attempt. They said, if it doesn't pass this time, you can't put this back on the ballot. Yep. So it passed, and they get to go back and throw on, hey, let's make sure that you meant to, so you can put it back on, but we couldn't put it back on. No, the will of the people has been heard. Now they have these large contracts with the military industrial complex to have, the Navy, the Air Force Academy, all those people there. They have focus on the family, and I'm sure James Dobson reached in his grimy pockets and pulled out all that tithe that should have gone to Jesus to stop cannabis. Because we all hate it when the kindergartners run into the dispensary and grab a pre-roll on the way to recess. But it's absolutely ridiculous. Like, and to not acknowledge the fact that like these operators have fought and clawed to still be in business and have continually asked, like, we really thought we were going to get this done in 2017. So 7 years, 8 years later, this is just hilarious to me. And I don't know. I mean, they barely got medical through, right? So we'll see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen other than a big fat lawsuit if this gets reversed, because I'd be suing the shit out of everybody.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yarrow, what do you have to say about this?
Well, I agree with Jenny that maybe a more abridged version of retelling the article may have been a little more engaging.
You know what? I didn't have enough time for all that this morning. I'm sorry. It's a big day, a lot going on.
I didn't have enough time for that article, bro. So it's not the biggest dot on the map, to be clear, in terms of the strategy and how cannabis entrepreneurs look at the country and the opportunities. What I gathered was, since we have covered this town before and their pushback, what I gathered is that this is just local control and NIMBYism rearing its ugly head yet again in a mature market state. It's something that we've unfortunately seen in many states, and not just in this little, and I don't mean little in a condescending way, but in this small portion of Colorado. And it troubles me because I think that it fails to acknowledge the public policy benefits more broadly to adult use regulation, the destigmatization, the endo prohibition, It's still sort of antiquated thinking to think that in a state where there's already places where adult use is just standard, that somehow they have some societal benefit by being a holdout. And so I'm not certain how someone has mapped this out as what's going to make sense. I think that they're probably pandering to particular constituents. I don't know who that is, but they're not even coming in third place. They're not on the podium. It's kind of a little bit. It's a bit of a head scratcher to me, and I'm not sure if you're already in a state that has kind of let the toothpaste out of the tube, what they hope to achieve by being this little island of non-adult use. And to Jenny's point, these kindergartners, they can go to a different town to get a pre-roll on their way to school. So it's not going to change anything except for optics. What it does change, though, is that there's a large percentage of people who don't want to be medical marijuana patients, who do use cannabis for homeostasis, for wellness, for whatever it is, for maybe not taking as many prescription medications, and who are impacted by a lack of adult use access. And so for those people, I apologize, because I think this town has it backwards.
Well, and you know what Colorado Springs does have, and I just had to check because I haven't lived there in a long time to make sure that they're still open, and they sure as shit are. Cannabis consumption lounges masquerading as churches and membership clubs. So you can still fucking buy cannabis without a green card in Colorado Springs. You're just, going to do it in this little gray area loophole situation. And those clubs are really interesting. There was a lot of news on them because they kept snitching on each other. So it was kind of interesting to watch as a part of that community. But no, I agree with Yarrow. It's absolutely ridiculous. And Colorado Springs citing homeless people. There's not a whole lot of fucking homeless people. Like, I could think of 25 places I'd rather be homeless than fucking cold ass Colorado Springs. And
that's
to
a
his
good
point,
point.
Jumping down to Pueblo, right? I'd be homeless in Hawaii. You know what I mean? Just sleep on the beach and shit. But looking at the tax revenue that's generated, and looking at Pueblo is an excellent fucking example, right? I operated there too. The difference between Pueblo and Colorado Springs, other than not having adult use cannabis, is Pueblo was a shithole, like steel town. All their industry was gone. They allowed cannabis to come in, and now they have revamped parks, they have revamped hiking trails, and they all have signs that say paid for by taxes from cannabis. So Colorado Springs has a little bit more money, but if you want to put some things together and, see money being used in the right way, Pueblo made sure to put giant fucking billboards up so that you could see where the revenue was going. So you could actually see the improvements in the community. And I think Colorado Springs is just really short-sighted to that point.
I like how you did that whole cheerleader thing of showing how big a sign is. That was great, Jenny Beth.
Old habits die hard, Jason.
Old habits die hard. Matt, Jesse, you have any thoughts on this?
Colorado Springs is always the same to me, as far as it's clearly a place that's affected by deep religious stigmatization. And I, coming from the Christian right, that saddens me, because it's just a clear misunderstanding of what's really going on. And it's something that got played from Harry Anslinger forward, and it just continues to stick in places like this. And it's sad. These should be people who are actually the most for the plant, because there's healing and helping people involved with cannabis, and that's exactly what they're supposed to stand for. So it's terrifying.
Fair enough. What do you got to say, Matt?
Well, my background is I went to a service academy, and friends who went to Air Force Academy, and also worked for DOD. And in these towns where these entities live, they're just really not fucking with weed. They don't need the money. They get plenty of tax money from the government, and they just generally have like soldiers, airmen, Marines, people in the government that cannabis is just important to them. And I get it. I mean, because I grew up in and around that. And it's kind of an uphill battle, like Marin County, you know what I mean? You'd think logically all the things, everybody applies for dispensaries, they deny everybody. You know what I mean? It was just some of these battles, you can burn a lot of money doing them as a small operator.
Yeah.
So good luck to them.
Fair enough.
I mean, I want to be clear on something. People don't need to be pro-cannabis to be pro-adult use. The idea is not that adult use means that people are endorsing the use of cannabis by adults. It means that they're acknowledging that prohibition was a failed policy and had more negative impacts than it had positive impacts. And so I would hope that those who are not in favor of people using cannabis could reset their frame of reference on this and just understand that even if you're not a drinker, it's better to have regulated alcohol than bathtub gin.
Their whole communities though get drug tested, so like it's a thing that they don't even get to participate in. So they just kind of you've been drug tested your entire career if you worked in the military or a DoD contractor. And so just the idea of weed that stays in your system for 30 fucking days. When I went to all my service academies, worked for the Navy, that was always a concern by people who would try to smoke weed here and there and were still serving. And a lot of my friends did in fact get kicked out of the Army and different branches of service for smoking weed. You know what I mean? And fortunately, I never did, but it's a thing. So that it's just like they just don't want it. You know what I mean? And I mean, it'll be a matter of time. It's going to be a battle for them around those military communities, Christian communities, real conservative, and then a service academy like the Air Force Academy. It's like the most prestigious. They can't have their airmen being tempted. I mean, you know what I mean? That's their fear. You know.
Fair enough. Well, we're going to keep this train rolling, and we are going to roll right into our guest correspondent. That's right, Mr. Matt Shotwell. He's a ganjapreneur, a cannalebrity, and a mids-fluencer, you guys. That's right. You may recognize him from the Discovery Channel's TV show Weed Country, where he goes to jail for opening the first dispensary in Vallejo, California in the 707. He's also the creator of the Midzotics brand, found in multiple states throughout the country. That's right, it is none other than Mr. Matthew Shotwell.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here. I've been watching the news with y'all for a while. Here in Trap City, USA, Vallejo. My story today is coming out of Barbados. I personally haven't ever been to Barbados, but I kind of want to go now after reading this article. So, cannabis industry secures much needed funding boost. In a major boost for the fledgling medical cannabis industry, Barbados Medical Cannabis Licensing Authority, known as the BMCLA, has partnered with Trust Loans Fund Barbados to overcome the financial hurdles hampering the sector's growth. The move aims to provide crucial startup capital to approved license holders who've been struggling to secure loans from traditional lending agencies. The BLMCA Communications and Public Education Specialist Tracy Moore told Barbados today on Friday that approved license holders were experiencing significant roadblocks in developing their businesses because lending agencies were refusing to loan them much needed startup capital. Welcome to the fucking game. Trying to get a loan in weed. You have to trap and hustle that. But the article goes on. But Moore said that with the advent of the Trust Loan Fund, there would be more movement in the industry. Last October, the acting chief officer of the BMCLA, Tanika Roberts Odell, announced that the new industry was already under great strain because of the lack of access to domestic and international funding and the inability for businesses to open accounts or transfer funds. This is the fourth year of operation for the BMCLA, and to date, 10 business licenses have been granted approval for about 30 licenses, and the University of the West Indies was granted 3 licenses also. So it goes, the licenses were approved for all types of activity except lab work. There's 8 license types: cultivator, which consists of 4 tiers, $29,000 to $79,000. And I had to look up the Barbadian dollar, and apparently it's 50 cents to the dollar. So it goes on to go over different tiers of licensing. The licenses are held for 5 years, and they have payment plans available. But these licenses are very expensive: $75,000 for manufacturing, $100,000 for retail distribution, up to $150,000 for retail distribution. So these license fees are pretty crazy, pretty high. More than 60% of the 10 approved businesses are Barbadian owned, and the majority of them are partner-based businesses. Banking is an issue, and because the banks who are here in Barbados deal with the banks in the United States, and because cannabis is not federally legal, there's a block there. So looks like they're giving out loans for $5,000, a whopping $5,000. The article wraps up. I won't go so long as Jason's was, but in the end here, they're saying it's a game changer because a lot of people have come to us, talked to us about what is making them pause was the financial bit. We're hoping that with these partners, people are feeling a bit more comfortable, move forward. It's a step in the right direction to secure your business or start your business. So, they're putting some loans in place, some little startup capital for people there. Anybody here ever been to Barbados? I personally have.
Man, you guys. Well, it sounds to me like I wonder if Riri had anything to do with this because she's from Barbados, isn't she?
She's Bayesian, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, maybe. I don't know. First of all, the Bayesian people don't typically have a shit ton of money, so those licensing fees are exorbitant.
Mm-hmm.
That's absolutely ridiculous. Also, I was looking at, when I spent some time in Nassau, we were talking about how to make those smaller island communities an actual industry, right? Like what the overall opportunity there was. And what we decided after doing a lot of modeling is it's very low and it's very small. So like high barrier to entry, low profit margins, low amount of consumers. You'll get guests, but like that's not really going to fully sustain a large market, right? So as soon as you have 3 or 4 dispensaries, they're all tapped the fuck out. So I don't know. I think that for me, the barrier to entry and the opportunity size don't offset at all. And that's,
if I may.
So
here we go. Oh yeah, Jenny pulled them off the shelf.
We were doing dispensary development in 15 states a few years ago. As a director of real estate for a company, we looked at Barbados and we felt like it was too soon. The total addressable market in Barbados doesn't get exciting unless you can sell to people who are coming and going on cruise ships. And I haven't seen substantial shift in regards to policies on cruise ships yet. It's great that these people have gotten a headline by saying that they're going to offer loans, but to Matt Shotwell's point, $5,000 loan when you have a $75,000 license fee is not going to move the needle other than the press release. And then to Jenny's point, when you have licensing fees that are that expensive, you are in effect locking out many of the people who live in Barbados who could otherwise benefit from having an ownership interest in standing up these businesses. And the devil's always in the details. And so what I don't see is what's the cost of funds, what's the terms, what's that's going to look like. Because if you're offering it at too high of an interest rate, you haven't solved anything. You've just replicated one of the problems with capital in the space anyway. And so I just really question the value of this because they're not providing us enough information yet.
You like how Yarrow tried to make it seem like he was going to disagree with me just to agree with me?
Yeah, he did. I saw. Cute. Yeah, he just act like he was going to make a U-turn and flip it, and then all of a sudden just kept staying on pace and just
in the right direction.
That was cute. That was cute, Yarrow. That was good.
I don't have to disagree with you in order to be correct.
No, as long you just have to agree with me. See how that works? That's what we do.
I mean, what's $5,000 that they're giving out these loans? I mean, what's the exchange rate for the U.S. dollar in Barbados, Jenny?
50 cents to the dollar. Matt said it.
Oh, 50 cents to the dollar. So they're basically giving out $10,000 towards this process then.
They're not giving it. They're not giving it out because it's not a grant. It's a loan. So no one's giving anything. They're lending it in exchange for making money by doing so.
Well,
and also you defaulting on it because your other fees are so fucking exorbitant. I wonder what the clawback is. I wonder if they get an ownership stake and they're going to buy all these fucking facilities for $5,000.
Government island Barbados run dispensaries, you're saying?
And again, until they can sell to cruise ship passengers, their market is going to be pretty limited.
Yeah, and take a drug of any sort, even CBD, onto a cruise ship and see what the fuck happens to you. They have jails on those things, by the way.
Yep, that they do. And shout out to the C word with a big old super chat who says mids on high at 9. He says loud only.
Oh, you literally paid $2 to talk shit, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, I'm about that life. I'm about that life.
If people had to pay to talk shit, it would be so much like life would be better.
Life would be better, especially if we're the ones.
I'd
And
be
if you got
bankrupt.
stopped a little bit when you honked at people in traffic, you would think about it before you did it.
No, I wouldn't. No, I would still
I
honk
know
at
you
everybody.
would.
'Cause I wouldn't give a shit because it's immediate. You know what I mean? These people
boy.
need me to let them know about themselves.
Shut the fuck up. All right, rolling
Just
right
saying.
along.
All right, we're gonna keep on rolling. We're gonna roll right into our next commercial, and we're gonna be right back. I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. Did you get that? So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door, and then next door to that, they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi. Whatever you're doing, make sure that you hit that like button. I know we'll appreciate it, you'll appreciate it, and YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.highat9news.com. Are you all ready for America's new #1 D9 gummy line? That's right, we are bringing to you Parody Gummy. These vegan gummies are manufactured in a safe harbor facility, so you know they're going to be clean and safe, and they're not going to give you any of the runaround. Coming in, we have 3 amazing flavors for you. We have the Raspberry Riots. Also, we have the Sleepy Joes if you need something to help you sleep at night. And if you're feeling like raging and having a party time, that's right, we have the Pineapple Bad Hombre. If you're feeling like a bad hombre, make sure you head over to www.parodygummy.com and secure your bag today.
Solved my insomnia.
And we are back, you guys, and we're going to keep this thing rolling. We're going to roll right into Mr. Jesse Barney. He's the founder of Jesse Barney Design Co., where you can help with your branding and everything else like that, as far as with all of your graphic design needs, and to really find the essence of your brand. That's right, he's a branding specialist and is none other than Mr. Jesse Barney.
Yeah, what's up, y'all? Good morning. My story comes out of SF Gate yesterday, and it says, tiny joints have exploded in popularity in California. Small joints have become big business in California. Imelda Wallavalkar can still remember what people said when she first started selling packs of miniature joints shorter than her pinky finger. The co-founder of the Pure Beauty cannabis brand believed in the idea, but she kept getting a singular reaction from would-be customers. What the fuck is this? That was 2018 when the standard legal joint was filled with 1 gram of cannabis and about as long as a middle finger. Wallavalkar's babies are comically small, weighing in at just 0.35 grams, featuring a cute pair of googly eyes printed on the filter. But 7 years later, customers aren't scratching their heads at Wallavalkar's tiny joints. They've become her brand's top product with millions sold every year. Most of the stores we talk to now say we don't even have to sell them. They kind of sell themselves, Wallavalkar recently told SF Gate. People come looking for them. Small joints have become big business in California. The state's biggest pot brands have followed suit. Recognizing the reality that many customers don't actually want that much weed in one session, microjoints have exploded in popularity in the last few years, according to Eli Melrod, the CEO and co-founder of the dispensary chain Soulful. He said his company is now working on releasing its own version of the bite-sized blunts under the house brand. Micro-joint fans say their benefits are plentiful. The smaller portion allows them to easily be finished in one sitting, as opposed to a larger joint that might require you to put it out and carry around a smelly half-smoked joint in your pocket. Modern pot is extremely potent, so many cannabis users simply don't want to smoke a full gram joint. Chad Hishong, the founder of Selfies, an Oakland brand that exclusively sells tiny joints, compared his smaller portions to an evening drink. It's for someone who just wants to take the edge off after a long day of work, Hishong said. It's like having a glass of wine versus drinking a full handle. Hishong created his brand in 2017 with his wife, Kristen, who noticed that he kept leaving his half-smoked joints around the house. We were smoking joints, and we leave them on the coffee table, and she hated them, Hishong said. She went, "Why don't you just start rolling smaller joints?" Hishong said the only small joint that he had previously seen was a half gram, but he took the concept even further by releasing a joint that's just 0.25 grams. Selfies sells the joints in 2 packs, 12 packs, and even 28 packs, which he said have become very popular for weddings and other parties where people want to share cannabis with a big group. Marty Higgins, the CEO of the dispensary chain Urbana, said a brand called Dog Walkers originally pioneered the mini joint around the idea of something you could smoke on a short walk with your dog. He said smaller joints were rare at first, but now they've become their own subcategory of products. He said many joint customers lean toward a more mature audience who are looking for a little less cannabis consumption. The growth of tiny joints also points to a subtle way commercialization of pot has shifted cannabis culture. During the scarce days of marijuana prohibition, passing a communal joint around a group of friends was a cherished ritual for smokers. But legalization has made pot accessible and affordable. Selfies 2-pack sells for $13 with tax, and the idea of putting your lips on the same joint that someone else smoked is becoming as socially acceptable as 4 friends collectively spitting in a pint of beer. Hishong said he saw an increase in interest in mini joints during the pandemic, especially because multiple people can still smoke them together and have a communal experience without sharing germs. Joints were created to share, so we wanted to create something that you could share the experience without sharing the actual joint, Hishong said. Hishong, who produces his joints at a manufacturing facility in Oakland, said his brand now produces over 325,000 mini joints a month, or nearly 4 million tiny joints a year. Kristen Hishong, who worked in marketing before transitioning to cannabis, designed the loud and proud prismatic packaging for the brand. She said the tiny joints are not only for convenience, but also for appealing to a different type of stoner. We saw a need in the market to have a product that spoke to people like me that weren't heavy smokers, Kristen said. This is a really interesting article. As a brand person, this speaks to what consumers want. As an example, I fought with many companies over the last 15 years to really push for opaque packaging and preserving flower and making really high quality pre-rolls, which is almost impossible to do. And it turns out that consumers across the nation, from market to market, just don't give a shit. They want something easy, they want something fast, and these small joints blowing up, and admittedly, they are totally junk. Every one of these things, none of them are good, but people love them, despite the fact that they're not really good, because they're convenient, they're small, it comes in the amount and the form factor that they want, and these are the things that customers really look for. So it's just the way that the market goes, I think, and I think that causes controversy, and especially in the branding world, because people want their really high quality craft cannabis, and there is a market for that, but it's definitely not the middle of the bell curve. Mm-hmm. So I'll pass it off to my fellow correspondents.
Okay, well,
man.
I mean, they definitely are selling. People definitely don't have the tolerances they used to, I guess.
Yeah.
But I also just wanted to note, for those of you in the audience, go actually to the website and look at the actual article, because it was very interesting and offensive to me that the picture for the headline of the article looks like that mini joint is between Todd Denkin's titties. So nothing says like some big veiny man tits, you know?
That's one of the company's ads.
I know.
And they're showing off how small the joints are. It's so weird.
supposed to use tits, and so they're like, you know what, Todd, we got a job for you, buddy.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
That's definitely not where I want my weed to come from, but cool.
Yeah, isn't that a weird association to tie to your weed?
Shout out to the Cole Memo, who says Trump ate a raspberry riot from Parody Gummy right before his speech.
He didn't say from Parody Gummy.
Well, that's where raspberry riots come from, Jenny Beth. So shout out to the Cole Memo. We appreciate that so much. Thank you guys. Man, I freaking hate these dumbass dog walker joints. I think they're the most stupidest thing ever, but people do buy them, and it's just so
Buy the
weird.
shit out of them.
Yeah, they buy them like hotcakes, like they're going out of style. And I often wonder. I was like, I can't believe people are actually smoking that stuff. But you know what I mean? I mean, look at how many people smoke cigarettes, and those taste like trash too. So you know what I mean? You can't. Oh, look, you got a dog walker, huh, Matt?
Yeah.
Is that a mids walker?
You're muted, Matt.
You're on mute, Matt.
Muted,
Matt,
brother.
you're on mute.
If you watched him on Weed Country, he was very clear that he likes to be the most sober one at the negotiating table. So maybe that's why Shotty's sticking to the mini joints.
Oh, still can't hear you.
Yeah, I still can't hear you, buddy.
Oh no!
You gotta unmute yourself.
Tiny joints are all the rage. Yeah, they are the rage.
Yeah.
That's like so many companies have tried to get customers to understand terps and to buy weed based on their terpenes, and it just never works. They still always buy it by THC percentage.
Yep. And Steve. Go ahead.
Oh, here we go. Am I back?
Yep, you're back.
Sweet, audio's back. Yeah, this is a 0.5. I smoked one earlier when Yarrow was dropping some knowledge. But yeah, this is the 0.5. They're super popular, and we pivoted to them as well. 5.5s in a box. And they're consumable. They're small. It's a low commitment. All the things that those consumer feedbacks were about.
People in America love low commitment. That is for sure. Steve Blessingham in the chat says, look how many people buy shitty $2 Chuck.
It's $4 now.
It is $4 now.
It's because of Biden inflation.
It's $4 Chuck.
Hopefully that'll get fixed pretty soon.
Here he comes. Yes, Yarrow?
I mean, the fact that you guys knew what the current market price was of $2 Chuck means we are not drinking wine together ever.
Just because I know what the price is doesn't mean I buy it, Yarrow.
Spades Rosé. So I think that one's about $7.50. So we could probably figure something out, Yarrow, meet in the middle.
Yeah, we'll get some nice Pinot, brother. No problem. Or some Montepulciano d'Abruzzo or something like that if you want.
I'll bring the bad one.
I felt like this article was kind of like, I wasn't sure who got informed by reading this article because there's nothing revolutionary or new news in it. Yes, we can cover this niche. Yes, it's been around for a really long time. Yes, I love hearing from Marty or Eli, local people in the Bay Area talking about productization. What I think the article did a really good job of was acting as if your wife nagging about your joints was the impetus for form factor innovation. Like, really, that was just nagging. And they're like, oh, he solved a problem because she was nagging about what he was doing with his joints. Like, if you want to stay married, and I might not be the best to give relationship advice, yeah, probably leaving joints of any size half burned in a house is going to not ingratiate yourself with your partner. The challenge that I have is that we have constantly, as an industry, been sacrificing quality for convenience. We could say that vape cartridges in general fit that bill, and convenience seems to be misequated with luxury. But the smaller the diameter of something you're smoking, the hotter and harsher the smoke and the less the flavor.
Yep.
And also we know that pre-rolls, and don't get me wrong, I'll smoke a pre-roll. We also know that when you grind it ahead of time, it's the same as like going from whole bean coffee to pre-ground coffee.
That's fair.
And so I think in the industry, we need to be mindful of where are we meeting the consumer with additional convenience, and where are we really giving them a lesser product? I'm not here to make those judgment calls, but my hope would be that people understand that the convenience factor is for when that's really, really important. but that the majority of the time you can plan in advance, and there's nothing more gratifying for us dinosaurs than grinding up weed and making a new joint and getting ready to smoke it. And hopefully something with a wide enough gauge that we are interacting more with the flavor than the heat of the smoke.
Well, we live in a age where people buy quarters of shake, Yarrow. Like, I mean, you know, remember when you had to know how to roll a joint to smoke a joint?
Mm-hmm.
You had to know how to roll a hash hole to smoke a hash hole. It was called snake in the grass. It wasn't called fucking hash hole. You know, I just
Snake in the grass. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, like, all right, cool talk, guy. You can smoke your little fucking penner joint. But I agree with you, Yarrow. The self-stability is not there either. And so if you think that your weed is probably a little dried out because it's been on the shelf for 6 months or whatever it is, imagine what happens when it's in a very small form surrounded by paper. And also, that's a lot of fucking touch points. But all right, roll on.
All right.
And
I see what you said. I see what you did there, Jenny Beth, with that whole roll on.
I got complaints, Jason. You hear them out, okay?
Yarrow, I think that you brought up some interesting points, and that is that we do want to serve great products, and we do want cannabis to be craft because we've been in cannabis for so long, and many of us for 30 or 40 years sometimes. And when you've been around it that long, your level of connoisseurship is very, very, very high. And we expect as connoisseurs and experts that we want to teach the newbies, if you will, who are, just going into a dispensary for the first time and buying their first weed in 20 years. Mm-hmm. We want to teach them about terps and about craft and about all these things and about how to smoke a proper joint and why a cone smokes better than a straight and why a straight is harsher than a cone.
Don't smoke better than straights.
Hold on. They do. The airflow in it is scientifically better. You can study smoking. It's okay, Jason.
It's total bullshit.
We know that you smoke straights and they're harsher, but just stop. So we know all these things about smoking, but translating that to a customer and teaching them that in the dispensary experience people have tried it many times. And it's never caught on with the middle of the bell curve consumer that buys dispensary weed. They want dog walkers. They want pre-rolls. They don't give a shit about how good it tastes. And they're just going to buy mids, which is why Midsonics is right on the money. It's right on the money. That's exactly right. You want to sell customers what they want in the weed industry, unfortunately, not what connoisseurs want. And unfortunately, those are radically different things.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. What are you going to say, Yarrow? I see you're like on the edge of your seat.
It is scientifically not correct that a cone is better than a straight.
I agree with you.
Because of the gauge. The wider the gauge, the cooler the smoke. The cooler
correct.
The smoke,
that's why at the front of a cone, and the way it smokes down to the same gauge as a straight, when you have it widening from that same gauge, you just have an ever increasing. So it starts as best as it possibly can, and by the time you're at the end, you're at the same gauge as your straight. So it will smoke better. And the airflow,
we're not buying that bullshit, Jesse.
The airflow in a cone flows better than through a straight.
Bro, that's ridiculous.
100%.
I mean, I'm
totally
looking at Matt holding up a straight. And the reason why Matt is holding up a straight is because the temperature of the smoke stays a constant when the diameter stays a constant. And as that diameter gets smaller, the temperature gets higher. And as the temperature gets higher, the flavor gets worse. So I would love to debate this on tomorrow's show as well.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I'm right, you're wrong, and I love you.
Yeah, I'm with you, Yarrow. I'm with you on that. I agree with you on that. We're right, Jesse. You're totally wrong.
That's okay. Everybody can Google search like the difference between straights and cones and the airflow and this is something that everybody can research, and people should, because there is debate amongst this and people have their own opinions, but there's a lot of information to look at. The point is you can't translate that to the consumer. They're not going to understand it. They're never going to care.
I can translate it in pure English. Cones suck balls.
You will not sell anything based on on teaching that kind of stuff. You're going to sell things by selling mids in whatever form factor that they come in. Right. That's all that it is.
Like that.
It's super
Just
simple.
like
That's
that,
my
right,
point.
Matt?
My point is that we can, as connoisseurs, we'll get into the details of this, and we love it, and we love fighting over the tiny little granular details. But the normal customer doesn't care at all.
Jesse, you're gonna love this. You're gonna love this because the Cole memo just sent in another super chat and says, "I like my joints as straight as Lindsey Graham."
I roll them straight too. I'm not saying that I don't. So I like a harsher, hotter smoking joint that has less airflow. I like that.
You smoke spliffs, Jesse. You're a spliff
because I
smoker.
like something harsher. I like the tobacco and the hash together.
He likes it harsh. He likes it harsh on his arse.
Boy.
No,
That's okay.
That doesn't make any sense.
Whether they are cold,
what doesn't make any sense?
Do we really want to, like, I mean, I guess we have to acknowledge that the consumers want dog walkers, right? So we have to sell.
The consumers want little joints.
Right?
The consumers want little digestible joints. They don't want to be
doing
like
an
overloaded.
Intervention on you.
I'm sorry,
Jason.
was I speaking? Because I thought I was. I might have hit my head. This could have been confusing.
More than one, but I'm sorry.
But listen, whether we agree with it or not, Yarrow fucking judges carts. I'm not smoking a cart, but Yarrow loves them.
He judges hardware.
Their own, I guess. But at the end of the day, as operators, we have to give the kids what they want, right? Like, I wasn't a fan of autoflowers. Colin did a really good job of creating some that actually get you fucking high. So, because we had an uneducated population who's like, I want to grow my own cannabis. Give the kids what they fucking want, and if it's not selling, then you're doing a shitty job.
Fair enough. In the essence of time, because we're already over time today, it's a big day. We got the inauguration going on and whatnot. We are going to roll right next.
Jason's got to go jack off to the inauguration.
Whoa. That's fucking totally fucking ridiculous. Nonetheless, we're going to roll into... Do you want to introduce Yarrow now, Jenny?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Okay, go for
not
it.
That
Why
way,
are you
please.
shaking your head no, Yarrow. You love it when I take you off the shelf and sit you on my lap.
Just put a little respect on the name, okay?
And anytime Yarrow gets to sit on your lap, Jenny, he's always excited.
No, for sure. He just kicks his little feet because they're swinging.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like that old school comedian that had the long stockings that had the big oversized chair.
Let me sit on your lap. You better put down a puppy pad first because I'm getting real excited.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
All right. Well, on that note, last of all seconds, my Barillo headed friend, Yarrow Kubrin, been in cannabis real estate and somehow social equity for quite some time. So shout out to Yarrow.
Yeah, you can read my CV and then it won't be a somehow, but it's all good this morning.
If you had to call me after you read mine, I appreciate it as well. It's okay, Yarrow. I'm proud of you.
I call you whenever I can, whenever you'll pick up. So, good morning. My article today does not include a half-naked man on the picture of it. I wanted to talk today, fresh off the press from Forbes, about hemp and intoxicating cannabinoids from hemp. So the U.S. court upholds Virginia's ban on intoxicating hemp. The U.S. court has upheld Virginia's strict regulations on intoxicating hemp products, ruling they don't conflict with the federal law and dormant commerce clause, reinforcing the state's power to protect public health and safety. Earlier this month, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit decided an appeal filed by hemp company Northern Virginia Hemp and Agriculture and other plaintiffs challenging Virginia's Senate Bill 903, a law regulating hemp products. And the court denied claims that the law conflicts with federal law or violates the so-called dormant commerce clause, a principle of law that prohibits states from enacting laws that unduly interfere with interstate commerce. The court, in its judgment, stated that the states can provide legislation concerning health and safety matters, including restrictions on intoxicating hemp products. The decision is a major setback to the hemp industry's legal offensive against state rules, as it upholds that Virginia's law in no way conflicts with federal rules or the Constitution. Virginia's crackdown on intoxicating hemp products. The plaintiffs have argued this state law conflicts with federal law under the 2018 Farm Bill because it restricts the amount of total THC in retail hemp products to 0.3%, while the 2018 Farm Bill legalized hemp containing as much as 0.3% Delta 9 THC, the main compound of marijuana, also present in industrial hemp in small quantities. It doesn't restrict other forms of THC, which include Delta 8, providing these these products complied with their level of Delta 9 THC levels. Virginia Farm Bill didn't preempt Virginia's regulations. To the total THC content to make sure health and safety concerns are met. The court also held that the Dormant Commerce Clause was not implicated because the statute treats all in and out of state parties equally, and therefore burdens interstate commerce neither burdens interstate commerce nor favors local businesses. In its ruling, the court said that since Virginia has a greater responsibility to care for the local health and safety concerns related to psychoactive hemp products, it could regulate them more strictly than federal law. Yet the ruling did recognize that the law may have economic consequences for some businesses, but found no reason to stop it from coming into force. Hemp's future is under review in the upcoming Farm Bill. At the federal level, the 2018 Farm Bill, what unwittingly fostered the psychoactive hemp products boom, remains under review. Lawmakers have proposed amendments that could even redefine hemp to exclude intoxicating substances altogether. That would provide a consistent federal standard and perhaps remove the need for state-level regulatory battles. But it would also deal a severe blow to the hemp industry. This is Yarrow Kubrin, High at 9 News.
Man,
bad news for parody gummy, but
slow down. I'm sure that'll get overturned and whatnot. Just relax. You always get excited over nothing all of a sudden.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they just need to stop trying to regulate all these alternative cannabinoids, because ultimately they're just playing whack-a-mole, and the trap is always going to win. And these, they might as well just collect the tax revenue off of these things.
Well,
not happening. Not happening. I'm from Virginia. I'm born and raised in Northern Virginia, and I'm there every month. And while Governor Glenn Youngkin is still the fucking governor, he's not a fan. They're not having it. But 2 years, they'll probably come around. Maryland just did $1 billion next door in weed sales, tons. So DC is a small market, but everyone's going to Maryland, and so there's money there. They'll eventually come around.
Oh, interesting. Brian Dombrowski in the chat, he says GTI owns Virginia already, and they're donating to Virginia Normal, you guys.
Green Thumb.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
That is true. I did go to a Virginia Normal meeting there 2 years ago in Richmond in the state capitol, and there was some of these rumors that the Normal organization there was heavily donated to by these large medical groups where you have to have a pharmacist on the team. It's very exclusionary. These big.
Are you saying bought off?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay,
yeah.
just
so
wanted,
it's like the barrier to entry was just so high in Virginia. We're like $500,000 application fee type shit.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 6 groups, and they can all have 6 dispensaries, but they all haven't opened up. But it's very political, good old boy, pay to play, big money shit.
Love me some big money shit. Love some big money shit.
No room for us little people to play there. They won't let us have any of the stores.
We just got to grow up, Matt. That's all. Matt.
No, I don't think that's a fair thing, Jason. I mean, it's great to love big money, but it's not great to have industry that favors the well-heeled instead of the scrappy entrepreneur. I mean, that's like having cones instead of straights. And so I don't think it's as optimal. And I think we really need to insist that this industry lowers barriers to entry, not increases them.
I'm with you on that, Yarrow. I'm with you on that.
And and God love Dombrowski again, hailing from Northern California. We see you even if you're in Texas. Big ups to Brian. But probably why GTI is in favor of this is because hemp could be cannibalizing the regulated sales in certain markets, and there isn't much tax revenue from hemp. And so I've been arguing for a long time that we need to have parity between hemp and cannabis, less
see what you did
regulation
there.
and less taxes in cannabis, a little more regulation and a little more taxes in hemp, level the playing field, because otherwise large entrenched MSOs and other moneyed interests are going to see hemp as taking away from their slice of the pie.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the South is right for this kind of shit. Like, as a fucking Southern girl myself, I can go ahead and tell you that the only way that things are going to get done in the very conservative, Republican, fucking Christian, whatever you want to be, South, I don't care if it's a purple state or whatever you want to think is moving, is going to be large corporate money. So that is the way this works, unfortunately. That is, it's the good old boy system, and it is what it is. It's, my uncle knows your cousin. We're going to have dinner or play 18 holes real quick. And somewhere around the turn, I'm going to shake your fucking hand. You're going to cut me a check somewhere. And now you own the state, essentially. So that's just how it works. And it's unfortunate, but you kind of have to be able to navigate those waters and sit in those rooms and have those fucking discussions if you want to get something done. And the way to do that, if you're not a green thumb industries, is by linking arms with other smaller operators and forming a collective and working together instead of against each other, because that's the only way you can kind of survive in the type of system.
Fair points on that, Jenny Beth.
Agreed.
Yeah, you guys. All right. I'm gonna roll into my final story, and it's super quick, you guys. Super quick.
Fucking God.
All right. Well, you guys. Nearly 24 new bills targeted medical marijuana in Oklahoma, you guys. That's right. 22 new bills could change Oklahoma's medical marijuana industry, they say, because in just weeks, Oklahoma lawmakers will convene to consider 3,052 new bills that could become law. Among those, 22 bills could change Oklahoma's medical marijuana industry. Some of those who would be impacted by those changes have concerns, and in a quote, they say, "It was passed by the voters. We respect the will of the voters. We're just trying to find a way to make it work best for Oklahoma," said Senate Pro Tem Lonnie Paxton. Since medical marijuana was legalized in Oklahoma back in 2018, lawmakers have been tweaking how the industry runs in our state, and this year will be no exception, they say. One new bill from Paxton would increase the distance between schools and medical marijuana dispensaries. And in a quote, "People call you and say, 'Hey, my kids walk home from school to another and they have to walk by a dispensary.' So just concerns that are out there," Paxton said. I mean, they don't let them in. What's the concern? They walk by liquor stores too. I don't understand that, but the question is, would already established dispensaries be told they have to pack up and move? In a quote, when SQ 88 passed the legislature, they had 60 days to implement rules, and it wasn't really enough time to figure everything out. We really don't like to pull the rug out from underneath the business, so we're going to have discussions with the industry and find the best way forward, Paxton said. A local dispensary owner told KOCO5 that he's fine with some bills like Paxton's, but others cause concern. Other proposed bills include one that would restrict advertising like inflatables and flashing signs at dispensaries that the bill's author said target children, you guys. And in a quote, "Pharmacies don't use tube men or flashing signs to advertise oxycodone or other serious medications. I don't think dispensaries should either," said State Representative Dusty Devers. In a quote, "When they use a tube man in front of a car dealership, the first reaction isn't, 'Mommy, let's go buy a car.' They just see a tube man. It doesn't necessarily bring attention to the product sold inside the store. It just more so brings attention to that there's a store there," said Corbin Wyatt, owner of Likewise Cannabis. And another bill would limit how much marijuana someone could buy in a week to 2.5 ounces or almost 70 grams. And in a quote, they say, "There are a lot of patients that are genuinely concerned about that because they might be utilizing more than that in a week, and that is severely going to limit their ability to medicate using cannabis," Wyatt said. The legislature is back in session in February, you guys, and I can't wait to hear what y'all have to say about this. Oklahoma, 22 possible bills up on the ballot, or up in the legislature for them to decide upon and try to overregulate the cannabis space. What do y'all got to say?
Oh man, them 500-acre farms are gonna be fucked, buddy, if you can only buy 2 ounces a week. Like, I think Oklahoma is doing exactly what, Disney did, right? Overcorrecting. right? So you didn't have any people of color. Now everything is crazy, right? And then you didn't have any regulation. It was $2,500. You get a license, you get a license, you get a license. Then you realize there's 500-acre fucking farms. There aren't enough people in fucking all of Oklahoma to smoke that shit down. So where's it going? So, I mean, this is just, yeah, we're going to fucking see. Sorry to all you failed California operators that went to Oklahoma and watch your dreams get trampled upon there, too.
I mean, they got a lot of mids out there.
Shit.
That's for sure.
Huh?
They got a lot of mids out there.
God bless.
It is mid-central out there.
Literally.
It's the Midwest is really
but
what
you know what? It also kicked us right in our trap because our prices,
Midwest.
if you notice, our trap prices dropped when Oklahoma was pumping out all these shitty pounds, which also speaks to the fact that if it has some color to it and you can convince somebody that it's candy, then they're going to buy it.
That's fair.
Candy gas. How are you both gas and candy? Kiss every bit of my ass, but all right.
Oh, man.
Oklahoma right on me drinking coffee.
Oklahoma's a good halfway point. You know, they really took a lot of the revenue share of the black market away from California. Texas people don't have to come back to Cali anymore. So we lost a lot of our Texas custies OT, you know what I'm saying? So they're still going to feed them. We're still going to feed them. There's a lot of regulation there. I had a chance to go to Oklahoma. I'm glad I didn't. I do have some friends there that maintain and are successful, but you know, there's a lot of like Chinese run activity going on out there.
Exactly.
It's a messy market, and they're cracking down.
China. That is so true, Matt. Very, very much so. A lot of them Bubba packs out there.
Oh, them $600 indoor Chinese untrimmed Bubbas pushing 447 grams.
Yeah, those PGR specials right there.
They have a recipe.
They what, Jim?
Oh yeah, they've been sprayed with the Holy Trinity. Avid, Eagle 20, and Floramite. That's the Holy Trinity.
That's the Holy Trinity. Oh.
Yeah, your liver will someday shut down and you're going to get ball cancer.
It's fine.
It's fine, Jesse?
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Jesse's like, I don't need my balls anymore. I have 7 kids.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
What he's saying is that a cone tastes better if there's a little bit of Floramite in it.
It does.
Fair enough.
If the cone is full of hemp-derived cannabinoids, do you think they could handle smoking the whole joint, or they still need a dog walker?
I really honestly challenge you to actually do a Google search on the physics of the cone versus
Google
the
can be
spray.
wrong, Jesse. Google's not the end all be all.
No. I'm
things,
not saying. It's a euphemism for going and doing some real research. That's all.
As long as we understand that, and you're not trying
We
to
have
say
to
that
clarify that.
Google is the end all be all of
That
what's right.
presupposes that those who have differing opinions haven't already done that research before today's show.
Yeah, I've already done the research too, and cones suck balls.
Yep, that's anecdotal
Beck
for
also
sure.
rolls pinners, but that's okay too.
I know. He rolls pinner little straights.
You've seen them. Thank you. He has a tin full of pinners at all times.
Those are not pinners. Those is full of the best weed in the world, and you can only be so
He actually
lucky
rolls an
to smoke
accurate,
those.
exact cigarette size straight with a glass tip.
That's right.
Yeah,
Keep
if
it
you're talking
straight.
Virginia Slims.
Keep it straight, you guys. Keep it straight.
All right. Well, I mean, hey, listen, shout out to Oklahoma. I have some friends that are down there doing an amazing job. Shout out to Anonymous. Proud of you, buddy. Just opened a shop up. So, go check that out. But, other than that, meh. If you need somebody to come do your compliance pediatric, go hit me up.
All right, well, fair enough. And thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Catalyst for helping us keep the lights on over here, and thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. Matt, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you and all of your mids antics.
Thanks for having me.
Yes.
That was fun.
Yes. And thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do all this. Thank you to Cloud Media Partners, Anthony out there in the metaverse, steering and making sure that we don't have any crashes. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show.